Señores estudiantes, ¿qué tal? Un gusto saludarlos nuevamente. Bienvenidos esta vez a la hora de inglés. ¿Sí? Entonces, esperemos que se unan unos momentos más los demás señores estudiantes. Hasta eso voy cargando el material correspondiente al día de hoy. Entonces, vamos, por favor. Let's go. Page number 21. We talked about persuasive writing. What is persuasive writing? What is its purpose? The purpose of a persuasive essay is to persuade readers to adopt the writer's point of view on an issue and or agree with a suggested course of action. To accomplish this, you need to develop logical and reasonable arguments that support your opinion. You are going to write a persuasive paragraph of 60 or 70 words about what you think the impact of human has been on the planet. First, decide if you think humans have had a more positive or negative impact. Then, think of ideas to support your opinion. And finally, and concluding sentence, write your ideas in the graphic organized below. ¿Sí? Entonces, bueno, tenemos aquí el día de hoy la parte de escritura. Hablemos de la escritura persuasiva. ¿Qué es la escritura persuasiva? ¿Cuál es su propósito? Entonces dice que el propósito es muy sencillo, que es persuadir, ¿sí?, a los lectores para adoptar el punto de vista del escritor con respecto a un tema o estar de acuerdo con lo que se sugiere en el curso para tomar una acción. Entonces, completar esto, para completar o para cumplir esto, usted necesita realizar una lógica y razonable escritura con argumentos que soporten sus opiniones. Ahora, usted va a escribir un párrafo persuasivo de 60 a 70 palabras sobre lo que usted piensa del impacto de los humanos, o mejor dicho, el impacto de los humanos que ha sido en nuestro planeta. Primero decidir si piensa que los humanos tienen o han tenido más positivo o negativo impacto. Entonces, piense las ideas que soportan su opinión y finalmente concluya las oraciones. Escriba sus ideas en el organizador gráfico a continuación. Entonces, aquí tenemos justamente el organizador gráfico que vamos a utilizar para nuestro propósito. Ahora yo quiero un video. Quiero compartirte un video justamente con el tópico que estamos viendo, ¿sí? Por favor, presta mucha atención. Justamente que se trata sobre persuasive Démosle un momento, se unió un nuevo estudiante. Entonces vamos a comenzar.
Welcome to Video Vocabulary. I hope you have your piece of notebook paper to take your notes. Let's get started. Number 1, put your full heading in the upper left corner of your paper. This should include your first and last name, your teacher's name, your class period, and today's date. Now, it's a good rule of thumb that your heading shouldn't take more than the space of your thumb. If it does, it's going to run into your title and take up too much room. So try and write small and neatly to get all of that information in that little area. When you're writing your class and period, use one of these examples, ELA-1 or Pre-AP English-5. Of course, if you're in period 3, use a 3. If you're in period 7, use a 7. Number 2, title your paper, vocabulary for persuasive text. Your title should always be on the top blue line and centered in the paper as best as possible. Make it neat. This blue line counts as the first line. This is important for step number 3. Number 3, skip a line, write the word, and underline it. So I'm going to go ahead and give you the first word in your vocabulary. You can go ahead and write it. But what do I mean by skip a line? People get confused by that all the time. Your title is on the first line. I want you to skip the second line and write your first word on line number 3, blue line number 3. 1, 2, 3. Notice that I put the number on the left side of the pink line and the word on the right side. I've got a colon and I've underlined the word. This is going to help keep our notes really neat. I am going to check for this, so make sure your notes follow this format. This is your first word, so go ahead and write down the word persuade. For each word, you're going to watch an explanation and then copy a definition and sometimes an example. So for persuade, the definition might look like this. You can write it now, but you might want to wait. So let's say the definition is really short if it's on one line. Good deal, right? But what if, and more likely the case, your definition continues on to the next line, or you have really big handwriting? No problem. But to keep your notes nice and neat, when you get to the next line, I want you to indent. Indent means put one finger next to that pink line, and then start about, it's just a little less than an inch from that pink line. So you're going to leave a space between the pink line and your writing. That will help your vocabulary word pop out from the page. So I want you to use this format. Anytime you have to continue either the definition or an example, you're going to indent. The only thing next to this pink line is your vocabulary word. Okay? You can write this now, but I'm going to show you what this is in just a minute. When you get to your next word, okay, after each definition, when you're done here, you're going to skip a line to keep your notes nice and neat. So here's where you ended, here's the line that you're skipping, and here's the next word. I would not write this. Don't write premise, because you're going to have more to write on persuade. Don't worry, there aren't that many words this time. Ready? Let's get started. Your first word is persuade. Alright, if you are trying to persuade someone, you are trying to get them to do something. You are trying to get them to maybe buy something from you. Maybe you want to get their attention. Maybe you want them to call. Maybe you just want them to participate in something. You want to get them to get out and vote, or you want to run a campaign. Maybe you want to get them to come to a community tailgate for the big football game. All of these are calls to action. If someone's persuading you to do this, they want you to go out and do something. Here's your example sentence. You can write this now, or you can wait until you see the second definition. The ad tried to persuade us to buy more candy. Notice how the ad is trying to get you to do something, a call to action. Definition number 2, sometimes when someone's trying to persuade you, they're just talking to you. They don't really want you to do anything, they just want you to believe what they believe. In other words, they're trying to convince you. If you're trying to convince someone, you're trying to persuade them, you're going to have to make them listen and pay attention. But even if you're trying to convince someone, you should know they're not always going to agree with you. Just like a call to action, people won't always do what you ask them to do. People won't always agree with what you have to say. Here's your example. We tried to persuade mom to let us stay up late. Now make sure that you're following the order of your notes. This is what it should look like. This is the only time you're going to see this. So notice how in mine, I was writing small enough that the definitions fit on one line, then I went ahead and put my 2 examples on the next line. I indented both of them. Remember, only the vocabulary word is going to touch that pink line. Okay, finish up your definitions and examples and pause the video until you do. When you're ready, play the video again. Word number 2 is premise. A premise is a basic idea in an argument, and it's similar to an assertion. Some of you have heard the word assertion before. That's kind of a weird definition, so take a look at this. A premise is sort of like a puzzle piece. To make a really good argument, you need to give lots of information. You need to persuade with a lot of different ideas. A premise is what we call a single idea in an argument. So it's kind of like a single puzzle piece. Let's take a look at an argument. It's not very good. And see if we can identify some premises. Penguins are black and white. Some old TV shows are black and white. Therefore, penguins are old TV shows. Logic, another thing that penguins aren't very good at. So if a premise is a basic idea in an argument, one single idea, like one single puzzle piece, where is a premise in this piece right here? We're going to identify one basic idea. Well, let's start with the first sentence. How about penguins are black and white? That's a premise. It's one basic idea. Now there's another premise in this argument. See if you can find it. It's distinct from penguins are black and white. You find it? Some old TV shows are black and white. If you have several ideas, several premises, then that can lead you to a conclusion. And our penguin's little conclusion here is that some penguins are old TV shows. Now this doesn't make sense, but it is a conclusion. Let's try another group of sentences to see if you can identify a premise versus a conclusion. Oranges are fruits. Fruits are good for you, therefore you should eat fruit. Where's one premise? Okay, oranges are fruits. Where's another premise? A single basic idea. Fruits are good for you. And you put those 2 premises together and you get a conclusion. What is the conclusion of this argument? You should eat fruit. Now this one makes a little bit more sense than our penguin. We'll see why in a little bit. Here's your example. Her premise that the moon is made of cheese is incorrect. Make sure you're writing your vocabulary and your example. Pause the video until you're done and then play to continue. Number 3, logical conclusion. Now we were just talking about conclusions, but we've added a word this time. Logical conclusion. If you take all of your premises and all of them work together correctly, then you should end up with a logical conclusion. Our little penguin fellow did not have a logical conclusion, just a conclusion. Our orange sentence was a bit more logical. It made sense. A logical conclusion, your definition, the sensible ending to an argument. You can end an argument, but that doesn't mean you've made sense. You're looking for a logical or sensible conclusion when you make an argument. If we think about the puzzle pieces again, remember a premise is like a single puzzle piece. Then when you put all of those premises together, if it fits, if it makes a picture, it's logical. It makes sense. Here is your definition. Here is your example. Instead of giving an example sentence, we're going to use an analogy this time. Puzzle piece, Is to, remember the colon is read as is to. Puzzle piece is to premise. Like finished puzzle is to logical conclusion. So if a premise is a single puzzle piece and you put all those puzzle pieces together, you end up with a finished puzzle. And that's a logical conclusion because it makes sense and it fits. Pause the video to finish your vocabulary and play again when you're ready. Factual claim. The first thing you should notice about this word is that you know a word in it already, and that is fact. You should know what a fact is. Let's take a look. Fact, 75% of teens between the ages of 12 and 17 now have cell phones, up from 45% in 2004. And in the little corner I see the letters NPR 2010. So this is telling me right out it's a fact, but I could also identify it as a fact because, first off, I don't see any sort of feeling words or emotion words. 75% is a number, and this statement gets really specific. Teens between 12 and 17, not just all kids, and not all devices. It's just talking about cell phones. It even gives me a year, so I could go back and check, or I could do a new survey to see how this compares. In other words, I can prove this, and that's what's special about facts. A factual claim is a fact-based assertion, a statement that can be proven by anyone. Let's look at another graphic here. Americans consume about 130 pounds of sugar every year. If we assume this is a fact, we're going to use this for our example sentence. Example, the poster makes a factual claim that Americans consume 100 pounds of sugar every year. While you've got the video paused, you can read through some of this other information right here. Play when you're ready. Commonplace assertion. Now, just like factual claim, you should recognize a word in this first compound word right here, and that is common. If something's common, it's everywhere, or a lot of people have it. Unlike facts, a lot of people have something, and they're usually pretty fond of expressing it. Let's take a look at a picture to see if we can figure out what this term might mean. We're going to do this a little bit backwards. Here we go. What is the capital of Texas? T. Now we have to figure out what's going on here. We have to identify these characters to see if we can figure out what is a commonplace assertion. So the first thing I notice is she's in a really nice gown, she's got a sash, and she seems to be interviewed. So putting these clues together, I'm going to make an inference. She's probably a beauty pageant contestant. She's got her badge, which identifies her, and there's a curtain here, which is probably a stage. So what is the common assertion, the common opinion that people have about beauty pageant contestants? And what is being shown here with this dialogue? Well, first off, what is the capital of Texas? Is it T or is it Austin? And how would most people answer that question? I think most people would hopefully say Austin. She's saying T because a lot of people think that beauty contestants are more pretty than smart. Now, is everyone who's pretty dumb? Of course not. This is just a commonplace assertion. It's just a commonly held belief. So let's get our definition and add something important to it. Commonplace assertion is a noun, and it's a commonly held opinion, and it's not always correct. This is important. A fact you can go back and prove, but a commonly held opinion might be correct and it might be wrong. So it's important to recognize when someone in an argument, when someone's trying to persuade you, if they're using an opinion or if they're using a fact. Let's look at another graphic and see if we can figure out the commonplace assertion, the opinion that most people hold. 2 plus 2 equals fish, 3 plus 3 equals 8, and 7 plus 7 equals triangle. If you were to look at this as a little kid, you'd probably be really confused. If you're looking at it now and you're really confused, that's okay. A lot of people, before they go into math or while they're in math, don't usually think math is easy. A lot of people think the opposite. A lot of people think math is hard. So let's use this as our example sentence. Many people hold the commonplace assertion that math is hard. Pause the video to finish your definition and example and play when you're ready. Alright, don't write down these words yet because I'm not going to give you examples. I'm going to give you the number, the word, and the definition all at the same time. So just hang on for a minute. Put your pencil down. Put the pencil down. Logos, ethos, and pathos. Some of you may have heard these before. These are considered the core of persuasion or the core of persuasive speech. If you want to convince someone, if you want to get someone to do something, whether it's a call to action or convincing them, changing their mind, you're going to want to use all three of these to be as effective as possible. And this is something we're going to be looking for in our text when we look at persuasive speeches. To be persuasive, to be truly persuasive, if you use logos, ethos, and pathos, you're going to make an impact. But what are they? Ethos, notice that these are not English words. These are actually Greek words. That's why they kind of look funny. Ethos forms from the word ethic, and it talks about trust and authority. So if someone is using ethos, they're trying to convince you that you should trust them, that they are a reliable authority, that they're someone you can actually rely on. Pathos, if you think of the word sympathy, deals with emotion and feelings. Another way to look at this is why should you care? If ethos is why should I trust you, pathos is why should you care? And logos, if you think about the word logic, they look awfully similar, don't they? Logos is using logic, reasoning, facts. So why should I trust you? Why should I care? And can you prove what you're even talking about? If someone is using all three of these, they're going to be very persuasive. So here are your words and your definitions. Number 6, logos, noun, an argument appealing to reason, fact, or proof. Number 7, ethos, a noun, an argument appealing to character or trustworthiness. And number 8, pathos, noun, an argument appealing to emotions or feelings. We'll see plenty of examples in class, so go ahead and write down your definitions. Pause the video until you're done. That's it.
¿Estás cansado de leer libros de matemáticas, artículos científicos de matemática y no comprender absolutamente nada?
Ya estamos aquí. Justamente el video que acabamos de ver es sobre la parte de la persuasión, ¿sí? Ser persuasivo. Eh, quiero que entiendas justamente. Voy a regresar al mismo video que estuvimos observando no hace mucho. En la última parte, donde hablan de estas tres cosas, sobre hitos, logos y peitos. Hitos apela a la verdad y la autoridad. Logos a la lógica y a la razón. Y peitos justamente a las emociones y a las creencias. Que es lo que nos decía la señorita, lógicamente lo decían en inglés. Si tú manejas las tres premisas que están aquí, hitos, peitos y logos, bueno, eres una persona persuasiva, porque haces uso de la verdad y la autoridad. Es decir, yo con verdad y con autoridad te estoy diciendo tal cosa. Si a eso yo le añado lógica y razón, ¿verdad? Voy adquiriendo más fuerza a mi persuasión. Y finalmente, si apelo a tu lado emocional y a tu creencia o fe, lógicamente voy a ser bien persuasivo. ¿Ya? justamente esa es la persuasión y es justamente parte importante para escribir artículos persuasivos. Y no solamente esto te va a servir en el inglés, también en el español. De repente, no sé, mis génesis que he hablado de este tema, date cuenta que también no solamente en la parte latina la vemos, también en inglés. Ahora, dependiendo de la carrera que usted vaya a escoger en la universidad, aquellas personas que tengan la oportunidad, quieran subir ese peldaño a una educación superior, esta es la base justamente para el marketing. La persona que trabaja con marketing tiene que ser bien persuasiva. Sí. La persuasión equipara a ser convincente. Es decir, la persona que te quiere convencer. Ahora, si eres una persona persuasiva, bueno, tus ideas van a vender. ¿Sí? Entonces, este video de aquí, yo te lo voy a copiar. El link me parece muy excelente. De repente puedes, los subtítulos, no sé si tú te das cuenta, puedes ponerle en el video, traducir automáticamente y lo vamos a poner que esté en español. En caso de que tú quieras, digamos, escucharlo en cristiano. A ver, por aquí está español. Ahí está. ¿Sí? Y esto lo puedes hacer en YouTube. Esto lo puedes hacer en YouTube.
Ethos. Notice that these are not English words. These are actually Greek words. That's why they kind of look funny.
Puedes ir escuchando el video en inglés, pero aquí te da la traducción. Te va a servir para esos videitos, esos tutoriales de repente que te interesan, pero por no estar en español no los entiendes. Entonces acá hay una alternativa que puede paliar eso. ¿Sí? Entonces, bueno, de mi parte, muchas gracias por tu asistencia. ¿Sí? Nos estaremos viendo la próxima semana. ¿Sí?
Bueno, buenas tardes, profe.
Hola, ¿qué tal?
Listo, profe, gracias.
Tengan una excelente tarde, un feliz feriado. Muchas gracias. Pasen bien.
Igualmente.